What's next? Where do you go from here? Are the Capitol Police really happy with you now?
Yeah, they're good friends. Good
Okay,
friends. Yeah,
good. Invited to dinners and
right. Well, leadership. They take me to the fancy places there in D.C. No, actually, that the irony is that because I've been very fair to the frontline officers in my writing for the last 2 years about them and my analysis of what they went through on January 6th, because they got the crap beat out of them by a lot of people, and I saw when I was there, I saw genuine fear in their eyes, and I believe, and they do themselves to a man, that they were set up that day. And so I agree with them. And they were set up by their own leadership. And so much of my investigations have focused on that. And then, of course, that was all related to January 6th. And then all of a sudden, once you get into that and you start identifying the fact that this wasn't the product of just pure bureaucratic incompetence, that in fact there was malice aforethought, and there was withholding of intelligence and corruption. And so we start seeing the corruption at the top. So then you start having whistleblowers and sources and unnamed sources, both former Capitol Police and current employees at the Capitol Police, that start reaching out to me. And you start learning things, and that's where this story came from, which is not a January 6th related story, but it's about the actual corruption and how the corruptible make their way to the top at the Capitol Police.
Wow. Jeez. Tell us about John Erickson.
He is, a tragic figure. Let's just call it that. He obviously had some alcohol problems while he was on a dignitary protection detail for then Speaker Gingrich back in '97. He was in San Antonio preparing the security, doing the security work in advance of an event that Gingrich was going to be speaking at. And the San Antonio police found him slumped over at 3:30 in the morning in the front of his car, completely passed out, way over the limit in terms of intoxication. And then he refused a breathalyzer, and obviously they arrested him. And then, he was released hours later, came home, got a slap on the wrist, and then 5 years later, he was driving his own car up in Maryland, again, intoxicated, and slams into the back of a Maryland State Trooper's car, injuring the Maryland State Trooper. Now, you would think that those kind of things would inhibit you from eventually becoming a deputy chief at the department. But it wasn't just that, because then, fast forward another 10 years later, and he becomes involved in a payroll overtime scheme where they were falsifying their overtime records. And
is that a problem?
Well, it should have been. It should have been.
Should be.
In fact, everything that he did related to that is what they call at the Capitol Police a terminable offense. In other words, the recommendation of the documents that Blaze Media acquired through this investigation said and recommended that everything that he did should result in his termination. And in fact, our source, who was very close to the investigation at the time, told me that their recommendation was that his crime and the other two involved in that conspiracy should have been referred to the Department of Justice because they were felonies, and they should have been referred for criminal prosecution. None of that happened. And of course, eventually, after another successive slaps on the wrist, he moves his way up. He's then eventually promoted to captain, and then inspector, then now deputy chief, just this past October.
Incredible.
I mean, that's the whole point of this article, right? It's just detail after detail, experience after experience of failing upward in the police department. I mean, this is just insane.
Well, they did suspend him, though.
Yeah.
With pay.
Well, I think he had to go maybe 10 or 15 days without pay. Something, yeah, without pay.
Oh, no.
No, he did.
Wow.
He did.
Okay. Because originally they said it was suspended with pay. But they did eventually suspend the pay as well?
Well, the documents we have say without pay. But then again, they were also supposed to pay this money back that they had stolen from the Capitol Police, from the government itself. And we don't have the records. And in fact, even our sources, both named and unnamed, don't know if that actually ever happened or not. May have. I don't know.
Sure.
Now, what is Traingate?
Traingate is it's a scandal that shouldn't have been a scandal. It was actually a cooperative agreement between about 300 or 400 of the Capitol Police and other agencies around, including the FBI and Border Security and some other policing agencies in D.C., where if these officers agreed to go through like a minimal amount of training from the railway systems, both in Virginia and Maryland, where a lot of these guys commute from into D.C., that they would be issued a laminated pass where they could travel for free. Now, that seems like a good deal because, you want good cops on a train that, keep things safe and they can respond to emergencies or, criminal behavior or report, suspicious activity, something like that. So it seems like a good deal, except that technically it's just against the rule. You can't trade your status as a law enforcement for anything free. That's a no-no. And it's like, whether it's coffee, sandwiches, or donuts.
It's a corruption thing.
Right, yeah.
You're trying to avoid corruption.
You flash your badge to get something for free, and it's called rolling the gold. And you're not supposed to do that. And technically, it's against the rules. But it was happening, and it was going fine, and nobody really cared. And in fact, according to sources on the record quoted in this article, they would even promote it in the morning roll call briefings for the Capitol Police. The commanders would encourage the guys that were commuting from Maryland, Virginia, to take part in this because they would save a lot of money and fuel, parking, such as that. But then one day a guy shows up and he's not part of the program and he rolls the gold and he flashes his badge, and the conductor on the train called the Internal Affairs Department at Capitol Police and reported it, and then that triggered an avalanche of an investigation from the top, except the scandal that shouldn't have been a scandal was made one because once the Capitol Police learned that their favorite sons and daughters, these people that have these unlikely career arcs that seems the worst and more crimes they commit, the faster they accelerate up the chain. Were also involved in this. Then they just dropped it all and hit it. And no DC press ever reported this. It's never came out. And so they were going to discipline these officers until they found out that some of their golden boys were participating, and then they just buried it.
Jeez. Is every federal department like this, or do you think the Capitol Police are a shining example among the bureaucracy of garbage?
I think corruption is endemic in D.C. At any agency, any department, any time. It's just the nature of the beast. It seems to be really a problem at Capitol Police because they are the security guards of the most corrupt people in the country. Congress, and especially if they're on what we call the dignitary protection detail. They know everything. I mean, they know everything about the private lives of these Congress members. They know who they're sleeping with. They know, as I said in the article, where the bodies are buried and who buried them. And they know this. And it gives them an inordinate amount of power. And that's the thing that I really struggled with when our first whistleblower, Lieutenant Tarek Johnson, came forward, former lieutenant with the Capitol Police, and he was telling me for 2 years, he's like, Steve, you just don't understand how powerful the Capitol Police are. And look, they treated him really badly. I mean, really badly. And I knew he had some personal feelings going on there, but I thought, okay, he's a little hyperbolic about this. And the deeper I got into this thing, I started realizing, holy crap, he's right. and he's absolutely correct in that these guys have this inordinate amount of control because they have enough power. And I say this without shame. They have enough power to affect close legislation. They have enough power to seat and unseat people from power if they decide. And think about how razor thin the GOP's majority is right now in the House. And if they don't want something passed, themselves, even though they're supposed to be a non-political organization. Yeah, right. And then even though they don't want something passed, all they have to do is send out a note and say, I will take out that guy, that guy, that guy, and that guy, and you'll lose your majority. It's like, okay, then you wonder why these people that run on positions and on a particular platform and then never vote that way?
Wow.
You ever wonder about that?
That's amazing. Wow. What is what are they saying about you behind the scenes? What is the scuttlebutt about Steve Baker now?
Well, we do have sources. We
Yeah.
have sources within the Capitol Police and at the DOJ. The most significant thing that we've learned from sources in just the last 2 weeks have been the discussions about me related to my own arrest and my own charges. Capitol Police are livid that I did not get charged with a felony. They actually
Really?
Yeah, there were our sources tell us that there were actual shouting matches among U.S. attorneys over my case. They'd never heard anything. They'd never heard U.S. attorneys yell at each other over a case before because they were getting pressured from command at Capitol Police to take me out. In fact, on just this Saturday,
Because of your reporting.
That's right. Just this Saturday, we know that a specific person at the Capitol Police said to them, put him in prison. This was shouted at the DOJ.
Wow, man.
So is the reporting you're doing, do you think, is it making it more or less likely that something bad, that there's going to be a bad outcome for you at the end of this?
I did not commit suicide.
Right.
I was
and
not.
You're not planning to?
Not planning on being Arkansided or Clintonized or Epsteined. Either, to pick your metaphor there. But the point being is that it's going to be interesting the next time I go to D.C., which I will be there in a couple of weeks for a series of meetings, and it will. I'm just interested to know how I'm going to feel this time.